The courtroom was so quiet, you could hear the weight of every breath. No one moved, no one spoke. And at the center of it all stood Lena Torres, a woman once praised in every precinct across the state. Fighter, a protector, a hero. But now she stood with shackled hands and a heart that carried more scars than her uniform ever did. Sentenced to death. Those words didn't shout. They echoed slowly, coldly. And yet, Lena didn't cry. She didn't flinch. She didn't beg. Her eyes were tired, her shoulders still held straight, but her heart was breaking into pieces so small they couldn't be seen, only felt. She wasn't alone, though most people thought she was, because at the very back of that cold courtroom, nearly hidden in the shadows, sat Shadow, large, jet black, German shepherd, trained, loyal, calm. But today something in him was different. His ears perked, his chest heaved, and when the sentence fell from the judge's lips, Shadow let out a deep, aching whine, a sound no one could forget. A sound that felt like grief. But why? Let's go back a little. Before all this, Lena and Shadow were a team. More than that, they were each other's family. Lena had no siblings, no parents left, no spouse, no children, just one soul who stood by her through shootouts, stabbings, late-night patrols, and quiet drives home when her heart was heavy. That soul was Shadow. She met him during her second year on the force. Fresh out of K-9 training school, Shadow was supposed to be paired with someone else. But when Lena walked into the room, Shadow didn't move. He didn't bark. He just walked over and laid his head on her boot. From that moment, they were inseparable. People joked Lena didn't need backup, she had Shadow. Together, they served some of the most dangerous neighborhoods in the state, drug busts, armed chases, missing children, you name it. Shadow was always one step ahead, Lena always one step beside him. Until the night it all changed. There was a call, a suspected break-in in a known gang area. Lena responded fast. Backup was late. She got to the address, Shadow at her side. She said the door was cracked open. She heard a scream. She went in. The suspect ran. Shadow chased. Lena followed. She claimed the man turned with something shiny in his hand. She fired. But when the dust cleared, the suspect was on the floor unarmed. That's what the report said. The body cam footage gone. The witnesses gone silent. The chain of evidence broken. Lena stood by her actions. She swore she saw a threat, but she refused to accuse others of tampering. She wouldn't point fingers. She wouldn't blame, even when it cost her everything. The media exploded. Protesters gathered. The town split. Some believed in her. Others wanted her punished. The trial didn't last long. The prosecution painted her as reckless, even dangerous. The defense struggled. Nothing made sense, but nothing could be proven either. And then, the final blow, guilty, sentenced to death. That night, Lena was taken away. No time for goodbyes. No visit to Shadow's kennel. No chance to explain that she still didn't understand how it had all come to this. The sane justice system she had protected had now become her prison. Shadow tried to follow. He pulled, he barked, but officers dragged him away. They said he'd be reassigned, put in a new program, maybe adopted. But Shadow didn't want another officer. He didn't want another life. He wanted Lena. The K-9 holding facility didn't know what to do with him. He wouldn't eat, wouldn't play, wouldn't train. He ignored every command, even the ones he used to respond to without a blink. Every day he stared at the gate, waiting. And every night, he curled up facing the door. Waiting. Trainers called it trauma, brief, depression. Some said maybe he was just getting old. But one old handler, retired, slow-moving, but wise, stood by Shadow's kennel one evening and said something different. I think he knows she's innocent. That same week, something strange happened. A young new handler forgot to latch Shadow's kennel properly. Most dogs would have bolted instantly, but not Shadow. He waited. He listened. Then, deep in the night, he moved, quiet as mist, focused as a soldier. By morning, he was gone. Officers spread out, sirens filled the air, but no one could find him because Shadow wasn't wandering. He had a destination. The last place he saw Lena, the courthouse. But that wasn't his end goal, because Shadow remembered the route from the courthouse to the state prison, a route Lena took in chains, a route Shadow would take by heart. And so began a journey that would not only test his training but the strength of his love. A journey that would shake everything people thought they knew about justice. About truth, about a dog who never gave up. The stars hung low that night, and the wind whispered through the empty streets like it, too, was looking for something. But Shadow wasn't lost. He knew exactly where he was going. With every careful step, his nose scanned the air, his ears twitched at the faintest sound. He wasn't just any dog. He was trained to protect, to track, to serve, and now he was using all of it for one thing: to find Lena. By the time the canine facility realized he was gone, Shadow had already crossed to neighborhoods. He moved like a shadow through alleyways, over fences, under broken gates. The streets were quiet, but his heart raced, because deep inside, he knew time was running out. At the state prison, Lena Torres lay curled on her narrow cot. The thin mattress did little to soften the cold beneath her bones, but that wasn't what kept her awake. It was the silence, the kind of silence that only comes when hope is gone. Her lawyer had called that morning. The final appeal, denied. There was nothing left to fight, nothing left to say. Tomorrow, she would die, and no one would be there to say goodbye. Not even Shadow. She had asked the guards once, just once, "Can I see him again?" just to say goodbye. They didn't answer. So now, she stared at the wall, counting cracks, blinking back, tears that wouldn't fall. Then a sound. At first, it was faint, a distant bark. She sat up, heart skipping. It couldn't be. The barking grew louder, closer, urgent. Guards began shouting in the corridor. "What the hell? There's a dog inside." "Which unit?" "The West Wing." Lena rushed to the bars of her cell, fingers wrapped tightly around the cold metal. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Then he appeared, wet from rain, covered in mud, breathing hard. Shadow. He ran straight to her, tail wagging. Eyes locked on hers, he pressed his body against the bars, letting out a low, desperate whimper. Tears filled Lena's eyes for the first time in weeks. She dropped to her knees, reached through the bars, and cupped his face. "You came for me," she whispered. He licked her fingers, whined again. The sound of pure love, pure loyalty. Then the guards came, guns drawn, voices shouting, but no one fired. They could in single quotes teed up because in front of them wasn't just a German shepherd. It was something bigger than any of them could understand. One officer lowered his weapon. Then another. Then another. Shadow stood between them, and Lena, unmoving, protective, steady. His eyes never left theirs. No growling, no barking. Just presence. Powerful, undeniable presence. The warden arrived, storming down the corridor with two men behind him. He stopped cold when he saw the scene. "What in God's name is going on?" One officer spoke quietly. "The dog. He came here, he found her." The warden scoffed. "So what? It's a dog." Lena stood slowly. "He's not just a dog. He's my partner, my family, and he knows I don't belong here." The warden's jaw tightened. That's not his call to make, but his eyes lingered on Shadow. Because there was something about this dog that cracked the steel in his voice, something in those unwavering eyes that made even a seasoned man of law take a step back and wonder, what if we're wrong? Word spread quickly. Videos leaked. A prison guard's cell phone had captured it all. Shadow slipping through doors, guards standing aside. The reunion at Lena's cell. The footage went viral. By morning, #ShadowKnows and #JusticeForLena were trending everywhere. And then, a miracle. An anonymous email arrived in the inbox of Lena's defense attorney. It had attachments, documents, original body cam data and altered. Files that had supposedly been corrupted were there. Clear. Complete. It showed everything. The man Lena had shot had pulled a weapon. The video proved he was charging at her. Angle, the audio, it was all there. A cover dash up. Further digging revealed reports had been tampered with. Testimonies had been coerced. Someone inside the department didn't want the truth getting out. A whistleblower came forward. "I couldn't stay silent anymore," he said. "I watched that dog walk into a prison alone to protect her. That's when I knew, if he believes in her that much, I should have spoken up long ago." Lena's case was reopened. Shadow was returned to her side, this time legally, proudly. In the courtroom, the same judge who had once sentenced her to death now read a different verdict. "All charges against Officer Lena Torres are hereby dropped. You are free." A breathless silence filled the room, and in that silence, there was Shadow wearing his badge again, sitting proudly by her side. Lena didn't smile. Not yet. She turned to Shadow, gently rested her hand on his head, and whispered, "You knew. You always knew," and he did, because some dogs don't need words to understand the truth. They just know it in their bones, in their hearts. In the very way they look at you when the whole world turns its back. The media storm exploded. Every headline told the same incredible story. Dog walks into prison, sparks justice. Shadow the German Shepherd. Hero or miracle? Lena Torres freed after viral dog reunion reveals cover-up. But Lena didn't care about the headlines. She didn't care about the news anchors, the podcasts, or the Twitter debates. All she cared about was one thing: Shadow, her loyal partner, her only family, the soul who had walked through hell to find her. They didn't stay in the city after her release. She didn't want parades or interviews. She didn't need to be anyone's headline. She just needed peace. So she packed a single suitcase, clipped Shadow's leash gently into her hand, and they disappeared into the mountains of Colorado, into a quiet town where no one knew her name, and where Shadow could run through open fields and sleep without the sound of sirens. There they found something they had both forgotten: silence that didn't hurt, quiet that wasn't lonely, just stillness and breath. Lena bought a small cabin with what little savings she had left. The community was kind. The sheriff nodded without asking too many questions. A local vet offered to check up on Shadow free of charge. And then something surprising happened. Dogs from nearby shelters started showing up on her property. First, a limping beagle with fear in his eyes. Then a retired police canine with a jag scar across his neck. Word had somehow spread among the local shelters that the dog lady who listens had moved in. She didn't turn them away. She built kennels. She started training, healing, rehabilitating. She called it Second Watch, a place for dogs who had served and suffered, a place for animals like Shadow who had given everything and just needed someone to say, "You're not done. You still matter." Shadow became the heart of it all. He watched the new dogs carefully, his eyes kind, his body calm. He showed them the trails in the woods. He let the scared ones sleep near him. He let the loud ones bark without scolding. He was the leader they all needed. And Lena, for the first time in her life, she laughed again. It wasn't the loud kind of laughter. It was the soft, grateful kind. The kind that comes when you've faced death and been handed life again. Occasionally, reporters found her. They'd drive hours to her remote town, knock on the wooden fence, and ask for a statement. She always said the same thing: "Shadow saved me. That's all there is to say." But once a reporter asked, "Why do you think he came? What made him break out and find you?" She paused, looked out at Shadow lying peacefully under a tree, then replied, "Because when no one believed in me, he did. And sometimes that's all it takes to change everything." A year later, something beautiful happened. One of the young dogs at Second Watch, a German Shepherd mix named Rocket, graduated from their training program and was adopted by the local fire department. When they held the adoption ceremony, they invited Lena to speak. She stood in front of the small crowd, nervous but strong. Shadow sat by her side, now with a gray patch around his muzzle. She looked around and said quietly, "This place It was born from pain, from injustice, from betrayal, but it became something better. Because of one dog who refused to give up on the person he loved, Shadow reminded me that loyalty can be louder than any accusation, that truth finds a way to speak sometimes without words at all. The entire town gave a standing ovation. Later that evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains and the crickets began to hum, Lena sat on her porch, sipping tea, Shadow resting beside her. Head on her foot, she whispered. Do you remember that night, boy? The prison, the bars, the guards? He didn't move, but his tail gave one soft wag. She smiled. You knew the truth before anyone else did, and now the world knows too. As twilight faded into night, and the stars blinked gently into the sky, Lena finally felt that the freedom, not just of body, but of spirit. She had been caged in more ways than one, but Shadow had carried the key all along, because love like his doesn't just protect, it redeems. And in a world full of noise, confusion, and betrayal, sometimes all it takes is one dog who refuses to give up. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe for more heartfelt stories just like this. And tell us in the comments, have you ever met a dog that changed your life? Until next time, stay kind, stay brave, and always listen, because sometimes the quietest voices are the ones that speak the loudest truths.